Welcome, listeners. Listeners to the Khyber Pass podcast. This week we have Sarah Larsson. Vocalist and instrumentalist. She performed at the Khyber Pass Thursday evening concert series in trio form. With her trio, Natalie, comprised of Serena Partridge, Alaya Sherraj, and Sarah Larsson. Together they sing Music Cold, from distant folk tradition, distant in time, distant in location, Eastern Europe, Western India, and beyond. Singing in original languages, including Yiddish, Bulgarian, Ukrainian, Romanian, on and on. I am your host, Paul Metzger, and as always, I'm proud to say that this podcast is made possible by the generous support of the Khyber Pass Cafe, Grand Avenue. Owner Amel Shahzad supports the Twin Cities avant-garde by hosting a weekly series. This podcast, we have selected a song from concert, after which an interview with Sarah Larsson.
Sjajna zvijezda preko neba kreće. Sjajna zvijezda preko neba kreće. A po zemlji ja i more cveće. Sjajna zvijezdo, da
Sarah Larsson. Yeah?
Absolutely. You got it right.
Larsson is so easy to pronounce.
Right.
Just
for Minnesotans.
It's so Minnesota. Jesus Christ. Well, thanks for playing and singing here tonight. It was a real cool show, different from a lot of the things we serve up.
Okay.
And it was cool to have, you know, it adds to the breadth of, you know,
cool.
what's on offer.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
Glad to be, you know, the outlier positive experience.
Yeah, I mean we've had plenty of outliers. It's
good.
Kind of where we dwell. But my first thing is you were here in trio, vocal trio.
Right.
And I really got the feeling from things that there's some sort of like, it put me in mind of like the way folk collect Irish music, or you know, people that are folk heads in a certain realm, and then they like to collect tunes, or there are people that did that like crazy, collecting fiddle tunes and stuff, and trying to dig them out of the corners of Ireland.
Yeah.
And so I got that feel from y'all that you guys like to do that as well, rather than focusing on albums that have been recorded. You want to get into the cultural place where this stuff lives.
Totally.
Is that kind of, am I getting a big force of what is on?
I think
y'all?
so. Yeah, I mean, so in this iteration of singing as Nanilo, so Aaliyah and Serena and I, we have really all kind of come from different directions and then arrived at a very similar place where, you know, I sang in classical Western choir for years, and that was my first like powerful, beautiful singing experience. And it was also like incredibly inhibiting, you know. I was like,
what is that as far, like, what would that be as far as music? Like
kind of your, like, everyone stands in 3 rows facing the conductor.
Okay.
You know, a group of young women all singing treble harmony parts that are all written on the page.
Is this like madrigals and stuff like that? Or
yeah, absolutely. And like
the
vibe. Scandinavian choral composers.
Sure.
You know,
all right, I get it.
Like the Estonian National Choir, that kind of thing.
Yeah, all right.
So
yeah.
I like came out of that, and so much of that world is kind of about like perfection, like singing the song in its most perfect form.
Okay.
And I started singing Eastern European music because I heard it and I was like, whoa, like that's beauty right there. And I think for a lot of people singing some of this music, it just comes as such a left field, like a surprise in terms of the sounds and the harmonies. And it was
a surprise for who?
I think a lot of people who hear it who are more in a like, you know, 1-4-5 chords, Americana music kind of world, or a classical world even. And it like wasn't until recently that I started to realize, and I just like felt like such a doofus when I kind of started to realize, but that all of these different national folk musics have their own canon. Same as you said with Irish music or old-time fiddle tunes. Like there are rooms where you could have a bunch of Ukrainians and somebody will call a tune and everybody knows that tune. And I was like, you know, I think the framing was like, oh, well, this one song, it's really rare, you know, somebody collected it from a grandmother in the village 100 years ago. And it's like, no, there's like, you know, the couple dozen tunes that everybody knows, and then kind of the extraneous, more unfamiliar things around it. So I'm like, I feel like we're just now kind of starting to get into this feel of like, what would it feel like to have a room where everybody knew some of these tunes, or at least knew the way to be together in order to feel like participants instead of just audience sitting on the fringes.
Now that seems like another thing that's big for y'all is to have it be that you're not the object
Yeah, yeah.
Tell me about that a little bit, because that's unusual.
Yeah, I know. That, like, what is the... I always forget what number wall it is. The fourth wall?
It is the fourth wall.
Is it fourth?
Yeah, it's a fourth wall and the fifth
break down
estate.
the fifth dimension.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really amazing groups who get up on a stage and make beautiful sounds.
That's
and
right,
I love being in the audience in rooms like that, where I can just sit back and be, transported and see where it is that we go. And I think it's really what I hear from people when I perform, and when I've been in that setting where I'm up on the stage and people are quietly listening. People come up to me afterwards and they say things like, when you sang that one song, it reminded me of the lullabies my grandma used to sing me.
Oh, damn.
And I wish she was still living, because
God,
I'd love for her to come to the show. And it's like, that person is part of the show. Like, them being in the room, having that experience is a huge part of what just happened in the room this evening. So I think, like, really, that just has impacted me so much. And so I've then really latched onto it and been like, how can we, like, more and more and more make a space where people feel that much like they're part of it, rather than, like, this is kind of about us, like, think we're cool. There's kind of a like aspect of my spirituality that goes into it as well, of like being humble is kind of also an important recognition of our tininess in the cosmos.
Yeah.
So the artist, who gets up on stage is an artist who like has to kind of know their place in the universe.
Yeah.
So I try to do that as well.
Well, speaking of cultures, like the Minnesota culture isn't trying to sing along or dance along yet. You brought that out of people.
Yeah, I know.
It's not easy.
People were dancing.
People don't even want to clap along to shit.
We got everybody to sing. People were singing in Aramaic, Hebrew, La-da-da language.
Wow.
We had people, but actually, I think it's like just in the last couple of decades that it's weird, because there's this amazing history of like the community sing movement. I don't even know what the 19-teens, 20s, whatever era that was. They used to have community sings in the parks in Minneapolis where thousands of people would come.
That's fucked up. Yeah.
like 2,500 people would line the amphitheater in whatever, Powderhorn Park,
Yeah, I dig, yeah.
And
That's
a couple
crazy.
people would be up there and they would sing kind of like the classic American songbook tunes, the tunes my grandma plays on the piano.
Okay, yeah.
And you'd have 2,500 people singing. And that was totally the scene. And like, the parlor piano, and, it's a big part of each party that somebody sits down and plays the old songs.
Yeah, goddamn.
So I'm like, I don't know what happened. You could tell me. I don't know what happened in the last 40 years or whatever that changed that.
That changed it from people doing that?
From people participating to kind of being listeners,
Yeah, I mean, radio. Radio, television. It changed people from entertaining themselves in their own vibe, like you're just at your house, and that's like, all the folk musics come from that. But when you have access to a radio, and then suddenly you're hearing the shit, you know what I mean? Whatever that is, wherever you are, like Bill Monroe, if you're a Hillcat, or any of that, or opera, or anything, like suddenly it moves away from folk, meaning like people,
right,
to the cats that are touched by the hand of God, like that kind of level, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and you can hear it.
Right.
And then, I have 78 RPM records from 1910, and in that era, you could go and get it.
Right. So it becomes and that you start hearing people say things like, oh, no, well, I can't carry a tune.
Yeah.
Like
the time.
You should play, but I could never touch an instrument. And it's like, I just don't think, like if your 5-year-old self was here, like 5-year-old you would be like, cool, I can sing.
Yeah,
like
that's fucked up.
At some point
it
gets kicked out of, and I think, people, it just in this world, just experience so much disempowerment. There's just whether you're like an activist on the street, trying to, just as a little guy change the way the world works, or you're at home feeling like your boss is like the boss of your entire life, not just the boss of your job. It's like, I feel like people feel so disaffected in a sense of like non-participation in the flow of the universe. So there's something like pretty radical and powerful about like maybe giving somebody a moment in their day where they're a full-on participant in life.
Yeah, it's tricky because for the people that have sort of decided they'll just do it, like I assume y'all or myself, or like there's nothing that really separates musicians from other folk except they decided they just fucking do it.
Right.
That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
And I think it comes from around that time period because everybody would have a piano at their house.
Right.
And there was always people would study piano for that shit.
Right. Yeah.
It's kind of gone. That's all gone.
Well, and in different places, the story has been different too. So I've heard so many really powerful stories about preserving folk songs and folk traditions as this like radical act. So I'm thinking about like
radical,
people
like what? How so?
Well, I'm thinking about people I know from countries of the former Soviet Union, where, so I have a number of friends who are originally from Ukraine, a number of friends who are from parts of Russia, and are doing folk music now, but they'll describe that during the era of the USSR, that there was this incredible force of state-sponsored art and culture, which both like elevated so much music and dance in some ways, and totally squashed the folk traditions of many cultures. And then another layer as well of the minority cultures within that whole region were essentially like meant to assimilate, which is code for meant to be erased. So Ukrainian culture, for example, my friend Natalia tells me about how when she was a graduate student in the city, she and her friends would go out, and so this was in like the mid 80s, she and her friends would go out to rural areas and like do chores with grannies in the villages in exchange for learning folk songs. But technically they weren't allowed to do that.
I hear you.
There was prohibition against the sharing of Ukrainian folk songs because everything was meant to be Russian and only Russian. So these people getting together and singing in Ukrainian, singing these old songs, they were like, they kept their notebooks in a shoebox labeled, photos, whatever. And the idea that participating in something that is your birthright, it's your tradition, it's your homeland, your people, the way that so many imperial powers have taken that away from populations on, who are indigenous to the lands that the empires take over is like awful. So, here we're just kind of complacent and, let folk culture slip away because TV is better. But in other places it was, actively repressed. And here, the cultures of the indigenous peoples of North America too, actively, outlawed, actively persecuted. It's like, why go after the culture, man?
Well, because the ruling class needs to dominate and the underclass needs to assimilate in order for things to stay intact. So it's threatening, when people don't do that. But I think it's so interesting about the Jews because they were happy to be the other in whatever. Oh, okay. Yeah?
Yeah, can we pause?
I was just heading out.
Yeah.
Do you want to ride?
I do.
Are you going to be a viol?
Like 5 minutes.
Are you cool with 5? We'll just
wrap
it on up.
Is 5 good?
Right, cool.
I couldn't quite wrangle you guys to say, I'm going to go slip away and do the interview thing. So I would love a ride.
Carry on.
Okay.
All right, cool.
Yeah, 5 minutes. Yeah, great.
And then the other side of it, the Jewish cultures, remaining intact and unassimilated within every culture they're in. Which is...
I don't know. I wouldn't say that.
You wouldn't say that?
In your podcast, no. I don't think that's... I think that's like a popular mythology.
Really?
For the more I learn from people...
Okay.
I don't know. People may come after me for saying this.
No one's going to come after you, but I'm just saying,
Yeah. And I'm like... The way I learn things, it tends to be from like hanging out with musicians and oral folk histories.
Okay.
But the more I learn from folks, it's like people coexist in places, and people blend and meld and overlap. Mm-hmm. So like I talk to people who are like really, really like deeply steeped in Eastern European Jewish folklore.
Okay.
Folks who are klezmer musicians, and people talk about like the wedding band was a couple Jews and a couple Christians and a couple Roma folks, or Christian Slavic folks, and like people of those different backgrounds played each other's music, because it was like everybody has weddings, so like
they do. So
the music's intermarried in the same way people could have. I was talking to, I don't know if you know Mariam Yousefzadeh.
I don't know anyone.
She's an amazing, amazing musician in town, and just like really important person here in the Twin Cities for having brought people together to make music. And I don't know that much about her story, but she and I just had this great conversation about the cultures of different communities in Iran through history. And, what she was saying is, you can't, in the course of the like ancient, amazing, long history of what we now call Iran, it's impossible to differentiate one ethnic group's music from another, because if you listen to the melodies, they end up being so much the same. And the songs will be sung in a different language, but the melodies are they overlap so much.
Okay. All right.
And that just says to me, like, I know what that feels like to be a musician, be in a room with somebody. It's like I'm a drummer and I see somebody playing a drum. I'm like, wait, show me how you did that. I'm like immediately glomming onto whatever they're doing, and I want to pick it up. Or like, oh, I like the way that you played that line. Like, it just kind of like plants in my head, even if I'm not hanging out with those people every day.
I see. Okay.
So I think that's been a huge part of so much of these cultures, and so much of the art of these places. And it feels like a very human thing for us to move through time and space kind of overlapping and connected to each other.
Oh, yeah, that's great. And I look forward to seeing how your combo develops and where you guys move through as you progress.
Yeah, thank
musically, you. Like as people do. And thanks again for playing here and for being on the podcast.
Pleasure.
And I'll let you catch your ride so you don't have to walk home.
I know. Well, I have a bike, but I forgot it at home, so.
Sarah Larsson, from the vocal trio Manilow, who performed at the Khyber Pass Cafe this preceding Thursday. Trio composed of Serena Partridge, Alaya Jairaj, and Sarah Larsson. We have attained terminus together, And as we disembark from this week's journey, I look forward to being with you next time on the Khyber Pass podcast. I'm your host, Paul Metzger. Thank you for listening.